And James is here with me now, along with our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Bennett. And, well, James, Trump today laying the ground for what he called the important meeting, the next one, which he said could happen with Zelenskyy and European leaders. Is the White House once again kind of sort of dampening down expectations?
Well, I was interested that there was a degree of certainty about this second meeting today. I'm not sure how that will go down in Ukraine and amongst European allies. I think, Mark, throughout this, there has been one consistent line from Trump, who has been erratic. He's been all over the place in terms of his talk about content, expectations. And that line has been a downgrading in expectations. You know, initially this had the air of the peace deal, sealing the deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that was reduced to a feel-out meeting. The White House now is calling it a listening exercise. This morning, Donald Trump said he reckoned there would be a 25% chance that it would be unsuccessful. You know, that downgrading of expectations, bear in mind that comes on the back of European countries, Ukraine in particular, you know, being resistant to what they think Putin is going to put on the table tomorrow. And yet, we had Donald Trump, he gave a radio interview this morning. During that interview, he talked about divvying things up. To a certain extent, it's not a bad term. There will be a give and take as to boundaries and lands. He's banging on about land swapping yet again. And of course, that's absolute kryptonite to Volodymyr Zelenskyy. So for Trump to talk about a second meeting, I think that will reinforce fears in Ukraine and amongst European allies that Trump is going to present this land swap idea to them at a second meeting.
And Ivor, I mean, there is this question of whether Vladimir Putin will even sit down with Zelenskyy. He doesn't treat him as an equal. He treats him almost like a sort of governor of a Russian state. So that could be a problem.
Yeah, I think it is perhaps wishful thinking that a trilateral meeting or a meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy will happen swiftly after this one, because as you say, Putin doesn't see Zelenskyy as an equal. He sees him as the illegitimate leader of Ukraine, and that's why he's always been so reluctant to meet face to face. But on the other hand, I think he knows that Donald Trump can't lose face here. He knows he has to have something to show for this from this summit, and that could be the loose promise of a meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy. But if that's the case, I think it'll be a bit of a fudge. There'll probably be conditions and strings attached, as there always are when Russia has presented something or agreed to something with the appearance of a concession, because Vladimir Putin still has no incentive to sit down with Zelenskyy, still no incentive to agree to a ceasefire. But we could be wrong. I think it depends on what else he can get out of this.
Yeah, and tomorrow, I mean, does Putin come here without having to do anything? I mean, he doesn't have to ceasefire first. He's here. He's going to meet Trump. He just sees that as a win, I assume.
I think the fact the summit is happening here on US soil is certainly a victory already diplomatically for Putin. He's a man who is accused of war crimes by the International Criminal Court, and yet he's being welcomed here for a summit. I mean, that's incredible, especially considering this time a week ago the clock was ticking on a deadline from Trump to agree to a ceasefire or face sanctions, and here he is. We're counting down to a summit. That's a win already. And his strategy tomorrow, I think, will be to try and convince Donald Trump that the quickest path to peace is a deal on Russia's terms, so that ultimately Trump agrees and then gives Ukraine a choice, either agree to this peace deal or go it alone. And I think to try and do that, he'll be appealing to Trump's impatience for a quick deal, his desire to take credit, and that's why we heard all those warm words from Putin. Today he said he praised Trump's energetic and sincere efforts to find peace, but also I think he'll be appealing to Trump's transactional nature. That's why there's been a lot of talk in the build-up from the Kremlin about the possibility for joint economic cooperation between the US and Russia if they can advance their bilateral ties. Putin also raised the prospect of an arms control treaty, so he's kind of laying out on the table what Moscow has to offer if Trump sides with him on Ukraine.
Yeah, okay, Ivor, thank you very much indeed, and James, thank you.